at 800-664-8864. Find out how to add U.S. minted gold and silver coins to your IRA and old 401k. Call the most trusted name in the industry today, American Bullion. 800-664-8864. Call for your free gold guide. 800-664-8864.
And I'm meteorologist Mike Mahalik. Clouds will be breaking for more and more sunshine this afternoon. Still quite breezy with highs around 50 degrees. Now clearing and rather cold tonight. Lows will drop down to 25 to 30 by morning. Looks like a mostly sunny day tomorrow with more seasonable temperatures, 50 to 55. Into the weekend, we'll have some high clouds on Saturday with a high of 60 and 65 to 70 on Sunday with mostly sunny skies. From the WSNJ Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Mike Mahalik.
This is your hometown radio station.
Really seems to be in touch with the heartbeat of the city.
1240 WSNJ.
That's my radio station. You leave it alone.
The following is a paid political program. Now it's time for Voice of an Independent Nation. And here's your host, David W. Bowen.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you back to our show again. It's Thursday, November 8th, 2012, at approximately 1:05 in the afternoon. Should you decide to call, the phone number here is 856-765-1240. Don't hesitate to call with your questions or concerns. As you're well aware, this is the Voice of an Independent Nation. My name is David W. Bowen Sr. I was a candidate for New Jersey Congressional District 2, the bottom third of New Jersey, against Frank Lobiondo. As all of you are well aware, we've had a very interesting, let's say, week and a half. We had Hurricane Sandy. We had the election, and we had a nor'eastern, and now they're starting to name them. I don't know what they named this one, but it was pretty interesting. I'm actually surprised we got any snow at all, but the kids were kind of hopeful that we were able to go out and play in it, but you get up today, and it's all pretty much gone. Fortunate for us, they had the NJEA plan for this week. They had off Thursday and Friday and then Monday for the convention down in Atlantic City. But as you're well aware, Atlantic City is still trying to recover from Sandy. So they had to postpone the NJEA, I'll get it right one of these days, convention for the teachers to another time. Now, what that means for us is, we have the kids home, so we're not missing a school day. Not that we really were going to anyway, because, we didn't really get that much snow, thank goodness. But, it is what it is, and it does limit our ability to clean up if we also have to clean up after the snow. Jersey Shore is still suffering. We have friends down there who... like I said, lost their boat and they can't find it. Other people know exactly where their boat is. My wife has family who completely lost their business. So it is quite devastating. A lot of members of my family and friends and everything, they were impacted by this storm. Election was the last thing on a lot of people's minds. But as I see, a lot of people did show up to the elections, and I'm kind of proud of that. Several people voted for me, and I want to applaud you for that. But unfortunately, we did not win. I did put a call out to Frank Lobiondo and spoke with him, congratulating him on his win. He did quite well. Cassandra Schober surprisingly did better than I thought she would. Without the backing of her party, it seemed like people, you have to question, did they vote for her because she was the better choice, or did they vote for her because she was someone other than Frank Lobiondo? As I said, Frank Lobiondo is a nice gentleman. He's just outlived his stay. We needed somebody else. And unfortunately, I mean, all I've been hearing is how everybody wants change to come into our district, to come into New Jersey and come into America. But unfortunately, everybody voted the same people right back in. All the incumbents got voted back in, and President Obama got voted back in. And not that I was for Obama, but I definitely wasn't for Romney. I actually voted for somebody else. I actually wanted Ron Paul, for those of you who are Ron Paul fans out there, But I don't know what's going on with him. He's starting up this new foundation or something. He may run as an independent in 4 years. We'll see what happens with that. But getting back to people wanting change, you can't expect much. You got Obama in there. You got a Republican House back in there. Not much is going to change. Obama's going to have to pull some executive orders, which most of the time is unlawful. But it's the only way he can get anything done, because Congress is just not allowing him to do anything. The Senate is Democratic, so we'll see what happens with that. Menendez won. I don't know if I'm too happy about that, but like I said, elections, today's elections, they're not our choice anymore. We've basically accepts through our vote somebody else's choice. The Democratic and Republican Party, they weeded out all their puppets, and they came across a certain amount of puppets, and they said, this is who you have to vote for. And then we have to accept their puppets. And I just don't agree with that, That's why I kind of was pushing for the independent vote, that way it's our choice, not theirs. And surprisingly enough, Obama and Romney got a large amount of votes. And it seemed like Romney was acting rather childish, because he didn't even make a concession speech. He thought he was going to win. And he's one of Bush's puppets, the Republican puppets, and he thought he was going to win regardless, and it just didn't happen, He just wasn't what was best. Neither one of them was what was best for our country, but, we had 4 years of Obama, and some people are saying, well, let's just give him another 4 years to see what he can do, finish what he started. He needs to stop blaming the Bush era and start taking responsibility for his own actions and get things going. Because if you look back, unemployment was low during Bush. And right at the end, that's when unemployment started spiking, and then Obama walked into it. But unemployment now is about the same as it was when Obama came in. So he didn't really do that much. And it gets back to our buddy Lo Biondo. He's not really doing that much. So I do hear some things coming out when Obama was here last week, and Christie, and then you had Lo Biondo following around like a little puppy dog. We seen that there was talk about getting some improvements done. And now that I see in the paper and everything, people are wanting to start doing things. Governments are starting to want to do things with the state and everything, in cooperation with everybody. And I think it's tonight. They're having a small business meeting with the SBIC and all that. It's more FEMA-based, but I think something could come of it, and I think they have an opportunity to redo things in a more proper manner. And this is what I was saying prior to the election. It was part of my campaign. But I'm hoping that they can get things going. Some businesses lost a lot. Some businesses lost a little. But, they can get paid from the insurance money, and they can get paid from FEMA, which ends up being our tax dollars. But it will revitalize the economy. If you think about it, I think we should have these elections every year. Because look at how much money got put into the economy because of Romney and Obama. You're talking over $1 billion, almost $2 billion total, from all the super PAC money, all the private money, all the Republican and Democrat money. You add all that into consideration, that's a lot of money going into the economy. That's just crazy money that you have to stop and wonder where it came from. I'm not throwing anything out there that's unlawful. What I'm saying is, if people have this money to decide who is the next president, why can't they take this money and invest it into our small businesses and stuff? Like I said, we can make a larger impact if we take a little bit of money and give it on a much broader scale than give a lot of money for one little project. Like they gave $500 some odd million to the company to file for bankruptcy called Solyndra. It's a solar processing and development company that went out of business, and that was part of Cassandra Schober's platform. Is she wanted to bring manufacturing, solar manufacturing facility into our district. The problem is, over the next 3 years, 180 solar manufacturers will be going out of business worldwide because the Chinese have mass-produced this, and they're selling their solar panels at below cost. The government's subsidizing the companies and selling these panels at low cost, lower than cost. And how can any company, especially here in America, compete against, pennies on a dollar? It's just not going to happen. So, I just think that if we're going to have a platform, Cassandra had a small one, a very weak one, but Lobiando had no platform. If we're going to have a platform, at least have, our facts understood, that we have to look at that, and I think that's very important. Just don't run around saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, vote for me. Unfortunately, elections have become a popularity contest or a personality contest rather than a talent election. And I think if we have a talent-based, you'll realize that a lot more can get done, Some people say, well, I like this guy because he looks nice, or he seems nice, he smiles a lot, or whatever. Or you have other people like myself who they're more talent-based. And I think that's more important. You want to get things done. Our district is severely hurting. I want to see what happens over the next 2 years. I haven't decided if I'm going to run again or not. How am I going to go and do it? Like I said, I chose to be independent rather than Republican or Democrat. Actually, prior to this election, I was affiliated, and I did get a lot of Republicans. A lot of my friends were Republicans, and I find out a lot of my schoolmates in our area now are Republican, and they were kind of leaning towards me going that way. And, I can't go up against Lobiando as a Republican because he's Republican. And I was considering the Democratic vote. I've come across a few Democrats, and I'm not saying they're all like that, but the few I came across were extremists, and it's a shame, They were just so conservative, and, they were actually criticizing me because I was not Democratic, and that's just ridiculous, We all have our principles, but the bottom line is this district is affected. Our America is affected, and it's neither a Republican or Democratic thing. It's neither a white or black thing, Hispanic, or male or female, or anything like that. This is an American thing that's affecting all of us. It's affecting your children, my children, your wife, my wife, your husband, myself, It affects us all, and it has nothing to do with what our religion is, what our gender is, what our religious philosophies are. I'll get it right soon. It's affecting us all. And that's what we have to decide when we walk in there. I was hoping because the majority of Americans are of independent spirit, they would go for the independent vote. And I just didn't see that this time. And, we can't complain if we're not going to change. My wife came up with something on Facebook she found, and she reposted it. I can't repeat it because it has some bad words in it, but it's basically saying don't sit there and complain about something if you're not getting off your butt and doing something about it. And that's basically what I did. I got tired of hearing everybody and talking to everybody at the local coffee shops, 7-Elevens and Wawa's, Quickie Checks, whatever they're called, you know, and actually got up there and started doing something. People said, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. So I got up and did it. And I mean, I made the attempt. People voted for me. And one thing I was really surprised with is, you know, I had 5 opponents: Frank Lobiondo, Cassandra Schober, Frank Farrelly, John Ordilli, Charles Lukens, and myself. And these guys were my opponents, but they were not my enemies. You know, I was on the phone a lot with 1 or 2 of them. Spoke a couple of them in person more than once. And, you know, you're somewhat like a friend, but, you know, you're still an opponent. You have a job to do. And one of the people called me up and said, you know what? In the beginning of this thing, I seen your signs all over the place. I mean, you couldn't go nowhere unless I seen your sign. And I was proud of that fact. You know, my people went out there and did what they had to do. But, you know, the week before, you know, and I witnessed this myself a couple weeks ago when I had to go down to Middle Township for a forum for the League of Women's Voters, I realized none of my signs were up anymore. And in their place were Lobiondo signs and Schober signs. Now, well, there were some other signs too, but what I found is a lot of my signs were taken down. And I didn't say anything, but this person told me that their signs were taken down too, but one thing for sure is they don't see my signs anymore. And, I mean, I guess that affected some of the election. It wasn't affected it that much because, you know, Lobiondo won by such a large margin. But, again, that gets back to what I was saying. People shouldn't complain about the situation if they're not willing to change the situation. You know, we had the opportunity to do good. We put Obama back in there. We put Lobiondo back in there. And all the other districts, we put the same people back in. You know, not much is going to happen. I mean, we can hope and pray, but, you know, common sense is common sense. You know, for 18 years, Lobiondo's been doing pretty much the same thing. And this year, he decided he's going to say put the people first. After 18 years, it's a little late for that. And, you know, Lobiondo does what he has to do to win, and it's not vote for his people. You know, he's voted against a lot of things. The NDAA voted against our constitutional rights. The Patriotic Act went against our rights. And he was talking about, I mean, Cassandra Schober brought up the point of Lilly Ledbetter Act. You know, that's an outdated thing, so I can understand why Frank Lobiondo voted against it. It was talking about something from a long time ago, and I probably would have voted against it too. Not that I'm against women, but because that specific act did not do justice. Now, where Frank Lobiondo and the others failed is the fact that they didn't initiate yet another act, you know, to take its place to make it better. And that's the same way with Obamacare. You know, everyone's against Obamacare. There's a recent poll that says half of America is against Obamacare. The other half, not entire half, but a majority of the other half doesn't know much about it. They didn't really think much about it. You know, businesses are affected by Obamacare because they're going to have to pay more. And a lot of people are affected by Obamacare. It's going to raise our taxes. And now Obama's questioning raising taxes, which I thought he was going to do. You know, I can say it till I'm blue in the face, but, you know, now push is going to come to shove, and we're all going to realize what's going to happen. And one of the biggest issues I have with presidents running for a second term and winning is now they have nothing to worry about. You know, they can't run anymore, so now they're going to implement the programs they want to. And as you're familiar with Bill Clinton, you know, he was actually impeached. He just wasn't removed for office, okay? And there's actually a bill on the Congress floor that's been there since March to impeach Obama for all his war crimes and everything, attacking Libya and now the Benghazi attack and all that. And it may be pursued now that the election is over. You know, we may not have a president. Biden may become our president. And he's not exactly the sharpest tool in the shed. But we'll see what happens, you know. And then I think Christie made a wise move. I mean, he's probably a chess player because he playing that one. He was originally vetted to be Romney's vice president. But, you know, Romney and Christie, they're two frontliners. You know, they can't be in the back burner. Paul Ryan, you know, he made a poor judgment. He wanted the 15 minutes of fame. But bottom line is, you know, now he's not running for Congress. He's going to be out of work come July or January 3rd. And what are you going to do? You know, that was his choice. Christie, I think, made a wise choice, decided not to run. He's still out there. He patted Obama on the back for doing a good job, get the money we need to revamp our area. But come 2016, I guarantee Christie's going to run. He may run for governor again next year, beat out Booker, but I think Booker's going to take it the next term. You know, Christie is very smart. You know, he didn't mess around. I think he's going to do well. Anyway, so, I mean, I want you guys to pay attention and watch what happens, especially the next couple of months. I see a lot of things that could affect our district. Very, very concerned about this, what's happening at the end of the year, the first, January 1st. I think it's the 1st. I don't know what date it is. 2013, when all the tax extensions expire and all that, you know, all our taxes are going to go up. So let's see what Congress does. Let's see what the president does to see what happens. And I'm kind of, like I said, nervous to see, but same token, I'm anxious. I mean, you can almost predict it, but same token, you don't want to commit to it. But again, let's see what happens. We're coming up to the last couple minutes, so if you have any calls, we can get one in. If you want to still contact me, I could be reached on my website. I pretty much took all the campaign stuff down. There are a few other things up there. I'm going to keep it going because, as I said, I don't know if I'm running again. But at the same token, I still want you guys to be able to question or ask. There are some certain organizations that I'm becoming affiliated with, because in my campaign they contacted me and asked me specific things, and I think we're going to enlighten them. At the same token, you know, I'm going to learn some more things. This campaign was definitely an eye-opener. It taught me a lot of things. I think if we do pursue this, we're going to come on a little bit stronger. I will say this, I definitely enjoyed this week. Not so much the Nor'eastern, but on Sunday I did some mission work. I took advantage. My wife has an old family friend that was a director of a mission and a church, and they needed some help. So Sunday we went there. Okay, hold on, we got a call real quick. What we hit?
Just hit the button.
Which one? The blink button? Mm-hmm. Hello, you're on the air.
Good afternoon. I was just sitting here to listen to your talk and everything. You know, if you look at the results, now I never saw Atlantic County or Cape May, but I live here in Cumberland. You know, Lobiando didn't win by a big margin. I think in Cumberland County it was like 33,000 to 27,000, and Schober wasn't a well-known person. And I don't know, I know Frank almost personally, and my wife went to school with him and everything, but you know, he was running for the 10th time, or for 10 terms, and I don't know, I thought there was about time we get a change there, get some new blood, and how much input has he really put into these lower three counties? I really don't know. Now, getting on to this solar scheme, to me, this is all a big bunch of hogwash right now. Solar energy is not cost efficient, let's put it that way. And the only way it was made cost efficient was by the government putting in billions of dollars to subsidize these operations and to get them going. Or this, this is the way I see it. I personally don't feel, if you're going to put up a solar panel, why do you put it up in Cumberland County? Why don't you go to Phoenix, Arizona, or, out into the west where the cost effectiveness would be much more likely than what it would be here because of just the number of days of sunlight.
Right, sir. I don't mean to interrupt you. I definitely appreciate your comments. If you can call back next week, more earlier in the show, we could have more lengthy conversation. But we are running out of time. We're down to the last few seconds.
Okay.
And I appreciate you calling in, and we love when you people call in. Please do so next week. But in the meantime, I have to cut you short. So
That's all right.
You have yourself a good day now, sir.
You too.
All right, again, we're down to our last few seconds. You guys have yourself a good day. Again, this is Thursday, November 8th at 1:30. Good day.
You've been listening to Voice of an Independent Nation with David W. Bowen. The program is a paid political program.
Far from the city, where the Lorax roams free, is the home of a magical truffle of trees. They grow happy and healthy and thick as you please, just waiting for visits from yous and from me's. Whoa. In a place you will love with things you'll adore. It's a magical spot we call